Back again. Mate, how are you today?
Good, man. Pretty good weather in Sydney today. How's Melbourne?
Oh, it's okay, I think. I haven't been outside so far, so I can't really tell you. And I'm in the office, so mate, can't really complain. Good news as well. We managed to get renewed. We are able to do the second episode, so we can actually go through and start telling people about things with Checkbox. Mate, now, last time we spoke, when we finished up the actual conversation, we were saying that we wanted to cover today workflow initiation from another line of business application outside of Checkbox. Now, I think you got something special for me, man. I think we're going to do something from within Salesforce. Is that correct?
Yes, as promised.
Most people, when we start talking about Checkbox, it's very siloed. They think, hey, I have to do everything inside of Checkbox. And I mean, let's face it, it's not the case. You can have things happen outside of Checkbox, whether it's Salesforce or Dynamic CRM or anything that has a RESTful API to start that workflow process. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So similar to how last time we showed that you can leverage JavaScript block inside of Checkbox applications to interact with other systems. Very similarly, you can leverage other systems, especially if they support some sort of event-driven API calls.
Yep.
To basically initiate workflows in Checkbox.
That's awesome. So I mean,
and not only initiate, also resume. Actually, yeah,
that's a big one. So we're talking about here, like we use Salesforce as the example. So I can go in and modify an object and start a workflow off that, or I could create a brand new object and start something off that as well. So I mean, it's just down to the APIs and what event we hook into to then start that process.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's what I'm about to show you.
Love it. Let's jump into it.
So here's an example of something that I whipped up together a couple of months ago for one of our clients in the US. I had to do a little bit of coding on the Salesforce side. So basically, exactly like you mentioned, imagine a situation where your sales team in a big enterprise, they live and breathe with Salesforce, one of the most popular CRM in the world, pretty much, right? And you want them to just sort of stay like, you don't want to add another additional system to the day-to-day to the user experience. So let's imagine that to achieve that, to actually combine that experience for the sales team with Salesforce, and then, for example, continue the user journey in Checkbox. Imagine you have some sort of a series of complex workflow approvals or like different workflow interactions that you might not necessarily want to do in Salesforce. Or for example, if you want to generate a bespoke document, which Checkbox is quite powerful at, what you can do is actually enable your sales team to create a new object. So in this case, what we did was set up a contract request object. Similarly, it could be just a typical, a new lead comes in, you progress lead to a certain stage, you update an existing contact or account object, and based on that event, a REST API call triggered to Checkbox.
Awesome.
So in this case, essentially, let's pretend that I am submitting a contract request, like a new deal, and I'm just gonna continue the topic of picking on your unhealthy addiction to McDonald's.
I knew you were going to say that. Always kicking a man while he's down.
And let's pretend that I want NDA with McDonald's. NDA with McDonald's. I'm just gonna copy paste McDonald's name. So I'm like throw in PTY Ltd. And in Australia, that's a slang name for McDonald's. If we have any international viewers, hopefully one day. And let's pretend we are about to have a potential business relationship, business number. I'm just going to sort of guess something, put something random.
Yep.
And you can see there's a couple of fields actually that's worth sort of like paying attention to. The trade secret one and the contract value. So I'm just going to keep trade secret to be no. And I'll put contract value as 90,000. So essentially this value and then contract value in particular will drive logic inside of the Checkbox workflow. So it's not just that, you just basically push kind of blindly data into Checkbox and it simply triggers a workflow. You can actually build in some logic. So in this case, because the contract value is under 90,000 and we're going to pick United States as a client location, it means that it's not, there's not too much legal risk for the client. So it will take a particular route where the sales representative will actually get their NDA auto-generated and emailed to them. And if you wish to sort of continue workflow in Checkbox, a sales director would be notified to sort of approve the deal and continue doing, you know, whatever else you want to do in Checkbox, assess the deal, create additional agreements and stuff like this. But we'll keep it simple. We'll just show you a couple of first steps.
So really cool in that instance there that we can have one app, and then depending on the objects that we select within Salesforce, we can have multiple ways to progress the workflow. So in this instance here, the catalyst in the way that we're going with this particular workflow is value of the contract and particular location. So if we were to go a different value and do a different location, it would be a different workflow, even though it starts at the same process. It starts at that same app. So
exactly right. Exactly right. And I might actually run through both options really quickly. I'll sort of deep dive into this one, and then we'll quickly look at what happens if I bump up the value to, let's say, 110K.
Excellent.
So let me just hit save, and this is our trigger essentially. We've created a new contract request, and let's sort of just one final glance at the information that we put in, just sort of like remember that, so you can see how it flows further into Checkbox.
Yep.
And so what should have happened, and I hear in my in the background, my email an email Zoom, and I have 2 new emails. So essentially 8:26, that's exactly the time we're recording it right now. I don't know if you guys can see the clock on my screen. And I got 2 emails, essentially one as a sales representative, because again, I'm sort of like a one-man band playing all different roles for the demo purposes. I got an NDA document automatically generated for me, and it says that it's been sort of auto-approved already. You can see there's a McDonald's P2 LTD, there's sort of a serial number, enterprise identification number because I picked US, and the short name, I guess. And all the rest of the information sort of pulled through correctly into the document. Okay, and cool. Another portion of it, what I mentioned before in terms of, you know, this being an email for a sales director. So they are notified that the new deal submitted. You can see Checkbox notification, hit them up, and it actually even pulled some of this information through. So here is the short name of the client. I mean, obviously it's not going to be that, just for the fun. And this deal size as well got pulled through. And if I click on this unique URL for Checkbox, I automatically am taken to the to continue the workflow. And you can see that the information that, you know, if the user was to submit this manually, they would have to populate all of this information. But in this case, it all pulled through automatically from that REST API call that came from Salesforce.
Very cool.
And I can sort of hit next and continue with a series of approvals as the sales director.
So, I mean, what we're talking about here, and more importantly, once IT go through and they set up the relationship between Salesforce or insert line of business application and Checkbox, the end user, what we've just shown, they don't know that something actually happens in the back end. It's BAU for them. They go into their Salesforce environment, they put the information in, and workflow triggers off and it sends it to the sales director. So they don't have to move away from where work is actually happening. They can continue on their job, stay within their Salesforce ecosystem and on to the next one. And there, through workflow within Checkbox, we've been able to route that directly to the sales manager or sales director or person responsible for the next process.
Exactly right. Exactly right. This way it allows you to sort of compartmentalize this experience and make it easier so they don't need to jump between multiple systems, and all the approvals and workflows sort of processed in Checkbox. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool and quite powerful as well.
And before I sort of wrap up the demo, I'm just going to really quickly pump out another one. So let's say NDA with Hungry Jacks.
Now you're talking. In all the right spots.
Just call them HJ. Purpose is, you know, let's say it's another potential business relationship, some sort of a random number.
Yep. And
let's make it 110K.
So
again,
with this one here, this is where it's going to be different because we're looking at different values. So as we were saying,
right.
Single app, depending on information, whether it's contract value or client location, will then actually go into different parts in the workflow.
Exactly right. And the main trigger here is the contract value and the location. I mean, I'm just going to keep it simple and trigger it based on the contract value.
Yep.
So if it's above 100K, it actually is going to send the workflow to legal. It won't generate the document automatically, like you've seen that automatic email coming through to the sales representative.
Yep.
And the legal would need to review the document and provide an additional approval.
Awesome.
So yeah, again, just a quick glance at all of the information before I move on to my inbox. Let me just refresh. Cool. So you can see here are my old 2 emails. It came through at 8:26, and in this case, I only got 1 email. So right now, 8:30. So no auto document sent to me. All I see here is essentially now I'm playing the legal team role. So you can see legal approval required, not a new deal submitted like the sales director would have received. Yep. And again, here's all the information that got pulled through. Click on the link. It takes me to this new deal. Again, all the information is pre-populated. And if I click next, a slightly different workflow kicks off, where I started by basically downloading a drafted NDA document and going through a series of reviews.
Very cool. Very, very cool. And I guess once again, it reinforces the fact that even though it is the one workflow or the one app, depending on information inside of the Salesforce object will then dictate whether it goes one avenue, another avenue, or it might be a completely bespoke avenue, which is excellent in terms of being able to have, once again, what we said, people staying within the system of record or where they do their work, and then allowing Checkbox to go through and do whatever it needs to do in the back end based on the app design.
Exactly. And obviously there's just a sliver of what we can do. We don't want to basically go for like 2 hours. And also we don't want to give you all of the secret sauce, the Big Mac secret sauce.
I love it, man. I love it. That's super, super powerful. And once again, appreciate you spending the time with me. People want to know at home. Macca's pun intended here. What's next on the menu? What are we getting for our next Friday delight when it comes to Checkbox?
So there will be one more episode around integration. So
Yep.
let's sort of continue that topic. So we've showed our viewers how you can basically grab data from another system and put it into Checkbox. We showed them how you can kick off a Checkbox workflow from another system. And then the other main one that's probably left on the agenda is how you can actually push data from Checkbox to another system. So at the end of a workflow, in the middle of the workflow, you want to push the data out. So that's what we're going to show.
I love it. Once again, mate, as always, thank you very much for your time. Have a great Friday, and episode 3 sounds awesome, dude. I'll speak to you soon.
Looking forward to it. See ya.